Raise your hand if you've ever written a dungeon that never got used. Or name an NPC and gave them a tragic backstory and your players never even asked for their name. What if I told you that nothing you create has to go to waste? Today on the Bearded Nerd podcast, we're talking about lift and shift, that style of prep, and how to make content you've already made and repurpose it into new sessions, arcs, or even campaigns. Whether it's old battle maps, forgotten side quests, or unused NPCs, I'll show you how to save hours of prep time while making your world feel deeper and more connected, and provide players the opportunity to immerse themselves in the world. So, let's breathe new life into what you've already built on this episode of the Bearded Nerd podcast. What is lift and shift prep? The idea of this is simple. Take content from a previous game or a previous session or just even a concept and then shift it to fit your current story. Why this works? Well, there's 4 reasons. It saves you time, it reduces creative burnout, it reinforces a feeling of world continuity, and it gives second life to great ideas that never saw play or saw seldom play. Think of it like recycling. You're reusing it for a different purpose. Now, what can be repurposed? There are several things, 5 specific examples that could be repurposed. Maps and locations, right? So old dungeons can become crypts and ruins or even a noble estate, right? An old dungeon can be kind of altered by a hair to become a crypt. If you use a product like Incarnate, you can make a clone or a copy of that map and then change out some cool things and then kind of go from there. But basically, you can reuse those things, right? An encounter map, like a swamp or a jungle or a forest, add some really bright colored flora, and maybe you have the Feywild, right? Just to kind of give it a little bit of a shift. You can change the lighting, the enemies, the environmental effects, and it'll feel brand new. Instead of goblins ambushing you in a forest, maybe it's elves. Maybe it is a band of thieves and cutthroats, things like that. Dungeons could become ruins of an old temple, or maybe a temple that you visited a year ago is now a dungeon, right? You can kind of just change the narrative part of it. So that's number 1, maps and locations. Number 2, NPCs. Give your old NPCs new names and faces and roles. Shift an unused merchant perhaps into maybe a rival or a love interest or an informant. Maybe the grumpy dwarven blacksmith. Basically, you shift the name and now they're a dwarven mercenary. Maybe they have the same voice and the same ideals. Who cares? Different person. Most players are not going to think twice about it. You can even say, if you want to really kind of play along with your players and kind of get them going, maybe one player says, wait a minute, is that the same dwarven blacksmith? And you say, well, why, yes, it is. And they can start asking, well, what's going on? Well, ask them. You can kind of initiate some of the chaos and you can say, yeah, the blacksmithing didn't work for the dwarf, so now they went back to mercenary work, right? You can tie that in and make something really cool. Number 3, plot hooks and subquest. Maybe you have a quest hook that you wrote down in a Post-it note and it wasn't used. Well, take that Post-it note, see how you can tie it to a current faction or a location or a story hook that is, or story arc that's being currently explored, and just reuse it. Maybe some old story beats with new stakes, right? Maybe there's a cult that you were thinking about, and now that same cult that you thought would be a cool faction at level 6 through 10 is now something that you repurpose to become like the splinter cell of a religious order that's, popular within the party. Something of that nature. You can reuse and repurpose as much as you want. Monster mechanics, that's number 4. You can reskin monsters instead of just starting from scratch, right? You can rename them, you can change their origin, or add some sort of thematic twist. For example, a manticore stat block could become the stat block of a corrupted celestial guardian lion, right? Guarding a fallen temple. Their duty was to protect the temple. The temple fell, and now this is what they do. It reminds me of the kind of demonic cat from Blue Exorcist that Father Fuji had rescued because it was defending a temple. And essentially that character befriended it, and it was a really beautiful part of the story, but they basically befriended it and were able to kind of like ally with it. Same concept, right? Where maybe the stat block that you use for this corrupted animal is what you use, but they're not going to know it's a manticore. They're just going to know, oh, it's this corrupted celestial lion and it's guarding this temple. So how do we deal with it? Things like that. You can even reskin a red dragon to be some sort of maybe like dinosaur or something like that, right? You can kind of take those things and use that stat block as a foundation and then go from there. Lastly, magic items and artifacts. You can basically make a magic item, or let's say you created one, but you never used it. So all you do is rename it and flavor it differently to reflect maybe the current setting in your story and just go from there. It really doesn't take too much effort. It just takes a little bit of time to think how it will fit into the story. Now, let's talk about how to use this seamlessly. Step 1, you're going to change the skin, not the skeleton, right? Keep the structure, change the context. If it was a bandit camp, now it's a cursed pilgrimage site, where instead of bandits, it's cursed pilgrims. Think of it like that. Now, from there, link it to a player. Find a reason it matters to someone at the table. Maybe the villain uses the same fighting style as the mentor of one of the PCs. Or maybe the ruin of that temple belonged to the cleric's god's domain. Or you can even add this both. It's one of the cleric's domain gods, right? That is the fallen or ruined temple, but it's on the ancient land of another player character. So now you're kind of connecting multiple player characters to this thing. From there, add a new twist. Always change 1 or 2 key elements to fit the current story. Maybe it's a new environmental challenge, maybe it's an altered timeline or a mystery, or maybe it's a secret that's hidden that is relevant to one of the character's goals. Again, it's not recreating the skeleton, it's reskinning the thing. So change the skin, not the skeleton. Here are some real examples that you can use. Let's take an old map. Let's say the old map was an orc camp with spiked barricades. The different or the lifted version is a shadow cult hideout in a crater lit by green fire. Those same spiked barricades would be there because the cult is going to try to keep people out. But now you put some green fire or some kind of cult-like decorations. Again, Incarnate has some really good options for you. And what you're doing is that now you put like some sort of like elemental circle in the middle because they're building a gateway for souls, right? They're building a gateway for using stolen souls. If you have Incarnate or use Incarnate, this is easy because you can take that old map, clone it, and then start repurposing it So easy. I love Incarnate. Go ahead and use it. This is not sponsored by Incarnate. I've been using Incarnate since 2017, 2018, something like that. And I love them. Now, if it's an NPC, maybe it's a retired bard turned to apothecary, same personality, same mannerisms. Maybe the lifted version is a spy posing as a drunken beggar, right? Maybe that same personality, same quirks and things like that. And what they do is that maybe, like I stated earlier, there's a connection there, right? Maybe the players recognize that the spy is speaking in the same way as the bard did. Maybe that spy is now also speaking in thieves' camp, which the rogue in your party shares, right? You can do those things to make some connections, repurpose, reflavor, and then make it new and exciting. Again, it's not about invention, it's reinvention. That's what creativity is, right? It's not just invention. You've already built the dungeons, you've drawn maps, you've created and invented characters. Just don't let them sit in your notes collecting dust. Lift and shift them into your current game. You can even take from old campaigns and old games, give them some new flavor if the players haven't, if they've seen them before, and if they haven't seen them, even better. But give them that new flavor and just watch how your world expands without doubling your workload. If this episode sparked ideas, or if you want the lift and shift prep toolkit, complete with a reusable NPC sheet, encounter reskin chart, and just a checklist to modify maps, join us at the Guildhall on Patreon. Seriously though, your support on Patreon keeps the lights going here for the podcast. And if you really enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a review, comment on what you really enjoyed about this, and share this with your friends, because that part helps the podcast grow on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. However, until next time, remember, prep smarter. Remember to reuse and recycle that content. Repurpose everything. Be kind and compassionate to one another, y'all. And as always, keep gaming.